over here on Hurfy's side. I haven't seen that sprite before. It looks absolutely adorable.
It is. It's the most adorable of the Pokemon sprites I've seen so far. Honestly, just loving more adorable sprites in general. Oh, and there we go.
All right, 5 rupees. Always nice to see money early, but 5 rupees not really going to cut it. Not really going to make too much of a difference here.
No, we're definitely hoping for something better than 5 rupees.
Our runners really want to hope to get 100 rupees before they hit the bottle vendor, and hopefully, if they're lucky, even get up to that 500 mark for Zora early, if they have the flippers early, or if they can get the Moon Pearl and Sequence Break there. So we'll see what Uncle has for us today.
Yeah, let's hope it's something good. I'm personally always fond of seeing the Cane of Samaria here, just because it's a very fun weapon to use, but we'll see what happens.
Well, we get a Fire Rod. So be able to burn out some enemies. Not going to have too much of an opportunity to farm for bombs this way, just because you want to save your ammo on your Fire Rod. A full magic meter is going to give you 8 shots total. There are 4 enemies you need to kill, a rat, 2 blue guards, and a green guard, along with the ball and chain boss at the end. You can always use pots against him. So we'll see if our runners spend that extra magic now to use to try to farm bombs, even though they don't have too many shots at it. If they farm a little bit of extra magic in the sewers, there's a bunch of pots that they might know about. Or if they just forgo it and hope there's no gloves in the back of Escape. And it looks like Bakar's going to take some pot throws at some enemies on his way by. At least he did there. Puts him a second behind or so, but not a big deal when you consider the upside. And we're picking up the Cane of Samaria anyway, so we might end up seeing those cane strikes regardless.
That's also a much better weapon for farming with, actually, with these enemies, because you can get way more kills, and especially if you just use the block itself as a weapon, as opposed to destroying the block and making it shoot fire. Yeah,
throwing those blocks, much more efficient on the magic uses throughout this escape sequence. And Bakar continues to use those pots against enemies as is convenient, while Hurfy's just going right on through.
It's interesting to see these different approaches, and well, let's hope for Bakarbollar that actually pays off with a bomb for him.
A little bit more change here in the boomerang chest, and a magic drop on Bakarbollar's side. That should get him an extra Fire Rod shot. So 25 rupees, we're getting there, slowly but surely, as we make our way down to the basement, see what Zelda's up to. Both of our runners using the Fire Rod on the ball and chain guard. It is going to one-shot them. It is going to be the fastest way they have available, and looks like they're pretty synchronized here, bringing Zelda up the stairs.
Yeah, it's all down to those just little differences in approach, making up for, well, little gains here and there. Both in pretty still a position when it comes to magic anyway, so we've got about the same amount of extra kills in them left, depending on how many pots they want to grab.
We'll see if they decide that the Cane of Samaria is really, really strong against things like rats, and there's a couple of areas in the sewers where there are lots of rats. You can really get a big bang for your buck throwing that Samaria block around, trying to get a bomb drop. We'll see if they take advantage of that or go for the fast strategy and just hope the other guy doesn't get any bombs.
It is, of course, worth mentioning that the only situation in which it's really awful to skip those chests in back of Escape is if they happen to be the first glove you can get, because then you have to go through the entire sewer section again. But if you can get a glove somewhere else, it's not actually that big a deal if you don't get a bomb right here. It's just a little bit more convenient if you do.
Not too high of a chance that there's a glove back there, but you never know. We'll see how much we can do this. And we still have one more chest back that could have some bombs in it, so we'll see what happens. And Hurfy goes right to the left, knows that there's a little bit of small magic in a pot right over there, wants that extra spot. Also, both of our runners have switched to the cane at this point.
I mean, it does make sense for this particular section of the Escape to be doing so, because, well, as you mentioned earlier, those rats and those snakes die really easily to the Samaria blocks. Anyway, it's doing. Bakarbollar has actually picked up a bomb, while Hurfy hasn't yet, so it's going to be interesting to see if that's going to make a difference. And ooh, there is actually a glove hiding back there, so it could be a big deal. Because Hurfy doesn't have one, so it's hoping for Hurfy that there's another glove somewhere available that isn't that particular glove, because otherwise it's going to be really inconvenient for him to get back here. Oh, there we go. So he actually gets an 8-bomb pack there. That's really convenient. It's a very lucky break on his part. Last thing you want to do is get stuck without that glove if it's in back there. God, this looks like we're on our way to Kakariko village on Bakarbollar's side. He's going up here, so I imagine he's gonna check, well, probably Agnem's cave along the way, or I should say the Lumberjack cave. And of course the tree falls. Ooh, 20 rupees for the tier 2 tree fall, that's pretty good. Not something you can set up easily though.
Very welcome sight, that those 20 rupees. Really good way to farm, especially 2 trees early to pull.
Mm-hmm. Of course, as I mentioned, it is the tier 2 tree pull, so you will need to get 4 kills and then take a little bit of damage to trigger that again. But it is actually possible to set that up here in the area around the Lost Woods if you really want to. I think Bakarbollar is just opting to check the items instead there. And just a piece of heart there. There's also nothing of interest in the Lumberjack Cave. It's a medium blue in there. I need to stop making up weird terms, that doesn't even sound good.
All right, and we're going to venture into Kakariko for the first time here.
Mm-hmm.
Bakarbollar going into Blind's Hut without a bomb in the back. Now, that's not a chest you really want to come back for. Maybe you can pick up a bomb in one of these 4 chests here. Hopefully, we won't have to, and he does in the very first one.
Yeah, that's
along
a lucky break.
with a moon pearl and a little bit more money. So that's working out quite well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was here I was thinking that the 8-bomb pack, if he managed to get at the very back end of escape, would give him a little bit of advantage here in Kakariko village, but as it turns out, nope. The game provides.
Backer with only 2 bombs, though, probably going to want to pick some up. He's going to need to use those 2 to get a couple of chests here.
Mm-hmm.
He'll probably want to buy some with 181 rupees right now. He'll be able to spend 100 at the bottle vendor, as well as pick up 50. Spend another 50 at the shop to pick up a full 10-pack.
Yeah, that works out really neatly for him. Because 3 bombs is exactly enough to check the houses leading down to the shop, as opposed to having to go to the shop first and then having to travel back up. And there's some powder.
A very welcome safety, especially for late in the game when you're ascending Ganon's tower. Those anti-fairies just before Moldorm 2 can turning into full heart refills is really a big deal.
And that is an incredibly convenient position for the flute, right there, right in time to remind you that, hey, maybe you should play this flute and unlock the bird.
It really doesn't get much better than that. Hurfy will be more than happy to see that in a second here as he follows up with the bottle vendor and gets his own flute. Still haven't had a map check from either of our runner, and as they're both singing here, waiting for the flute to finish playing its music, we'll remind you to give these runners a follow, Hurfydurfy and Bakarbollar. Both are very skilled at this game and can provide very entertaining streams. So give both of these runners a follow.
Yeah, nothing of interest in the back of the chicken hut here. And no bottle to check the sick kit just yet, but that's okay. And Bakarbollar is, as predicted, indeed going to quickly buy a couple bombs along the way here.
The way this seed's been going and how it's been providing for them, I would not be surprised to see a bottle in the back of the bar here.
It has also been, at least for the races I've watched in the tournament so far, it's actually been a bit of a trend to have a bottle of some kind here in Kakariko Village, or before you even go to Kakariko Village, just so you can immediately visit the sick kit. But this time it appears we've got an exception, and we'll be leaving the sick kits until later.
Getting to the end of our opening sequence here, we're just a hammer away from Dark World access, or possibly a level 2 glove.
Ooh, that was the mirror.
That's definitely something they're going to want to come back for. Although there are the rare mirrorless seeds, this is likely not one of them. Bakarbollar just going right into the brothers to go to the race game here, while Hurfy's taking the more traditional route of checking it first.
Yep, and it looks like checking it first paid off, because that's just a bomb capacity upgrade, and that's not really needed.
Bakarbollar's 3 file names did say he was the gambling king, so I guess this counts as a gamble here.
Ooh, and there's the half magic. That's going to sync up very nicely with that fire rod they have. It's nothing like being able to fire that thing 16 times instead of just 8 times as you normally can.
Yeah, especially when those mini Moldorms in the cave coming up keep dodging and diving out of the way of the fire rod shots.
Yeah, definitely. This is going to help a lot once they get to Modular, or if they get to Trinex, assuming they have to do Turtle Rock this seed.
Hurfy electing to pick up the full heart container. Early on, I absolutely agree with this play. A full heart container is really difficult to pass up. A quarter of a heart, much easier to skip by. Bakarbollar is going to do the exact same. And we've even seen this in the NMG tournament. Most runners picking up the Sanctuary Heart at the very beginning. That one extra full heart container makes a heck of a difference.
Yeah, it's definitely worth just taking a couple seconds to pick up. And there's a map check. Looks like two crystals to me with green pendant on Eastern Palace.
And Bakarbollar just flying right over. Gonna go check Agina right now. It's not usually high on the list of things to check for runners, but this is certainly a gamble. If this ends up being a progressive item, a hammer especially, this could be quite a difference.
Imagine it helps. His decision was helped by the fact that he already has the flute, because it makes it really quick to check. And yes, Mr. Don Carlos, as somebody just answered you in chat, actually the thing you see in the bottom left corners of Hurfy's stream is actually his input display.
Bakarbollar does get 300 rupees, so not exactly what he was hoping for, but not unwelcome, seeing as he can sequence break over to Zora right now.
If he's just 100 rupees short, and if I'm looking at Hurfy's rupee count in comparison, I think he'll be getting those 100 rupees pretty shortly.
Hurfy electing not to sequence break here, just going to save and quit from Ice Rod Cave. We'll see where he heads next.
Yes, plenty of places left to go with the flute in hand.
Get a map check from Hurfy. Looks like that Tower of Hera Crystal is indeed red.
Yeah, that's nice. Pretty okay light world so far. In that regard, it's always good to see a couple of light world crystals, and especially one of those crystals in here.
So Hurfy's going to head over to see Shrihassala and Eastern Palace. We'll see if he decides to make a dip in there. Both of our runners do have access to Death Mountain with that flute, but without the hook shot or the mirror, and we know the mirror is, of course, blocked by the boots right now, there's not a lot they can do up there. So definitely both of them going for higher density locations. Bakarbollar taking that shovel he found in the mini Moldorm cave. Gonna go use it right away. I think this is another gamble, checking a one-off spot. And just 3 bombs doesn't pay off yet again.
Yeah. Meanwhile, so as Relisat actually did pay off for Hurfy and will make that Dead Mountain play you were mentioning a lot more attractive because he just found the hook shot there.
Getting to East Side Death Mountain early is really, really appealing. Might even consider skipping out on Eastern Palace, but he's already here and he's already making the journey.
Yeah, I definitely understand. So just going into Eastern right now, and at the very least that hook shot is going to make checking Eastern just that tiny little bit quicker for that one chest on the right side of the place.
That's one of the most amazing thing about Link to the Past Randomizer. The game seems to be absolutely built for it, with these little time saves of these little item interactions that you would never even think of in the vanilla game. This hook shot over to this, I believe it's a map chest in the vanilla game.
Yeah, it's amazing how, yeah, it is indeed amazing how many little weird routes there are in this game that just wouldn't ever come up if you're playing through it normally, which are incredibly convenient for randomization.
And Backer going to sequence break, looks like to the Zora area, uses a bomb to set up the fake flippers, gets all the way over to the lefternmost pixel without screen transitioning, and not even going to check Sky Island, like Hylia Island or Hobo, just going right to Zora.
Yeah, I've seen this quite often lately, actually. It does take a lot of time compared to swim to those 2 northern spots compared to just quickly checking these more dense locations. Plus, unlike those locations, those are more easily checked later with Mirror from the Dark Worlds, and we found the Quake Medallion.
It's a possibility that that's a progression item, but we won't know until much later, so this sequence break really not a big deal quite yet. Also, he loses his fake flippers and saves and quits after seeing a shield upgrade. I don't think he had enough money for Zora. It was short by about 50 rupees.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but it'll just be one of those things that he'll probably just leave off for as long as possible now. At the very least, it opens up combining Zora with Catfish later if it turns out to be necessary.
Hurfy attempting the swordless dark room here. It's always easier when you have the sword to hold out and really make it so that you have an idea of where Link is in the room the entire time. But with Eastern Palace, the initial dark room over here is a little bit easier to navigate, and Hurfy using the hook shot to kind of guide himself along here. Makes it through, and is going to go and get rewarded with hopefully another item.
I haven't been keeping track exactly of how many items he's found in there so far, but with the fact that he's actually going here, I imagine there's something in this chest, possibly.
A little bit of trouble with the damage boost, but gets it. Plenty of hearts. Big keys, certainly going to go ahead and turn that into the big chest now. No bow, so not able to complete this dungeon, but it is just a pendant.
Baka, meanwhile, just saw that hook shot and was like, you know what? This is clearly saying to me I need to go to East Dead Mountain, and is just heading straight there.
It is definitely the higher density, and Hurfy, overjoyed to see that compass, takes a few hugs at it and save and quits. It's interesting to see Backer now go for the higher density play after doing the one-offs. Maybe he's expecting for Hurfy to clear out Eastern, and so just wants to do something different. It's in a one-on-one race, you are often rewarded for doing something different than your opponent. If you do the same thing as the other person, you're going to get whatever they get. So you got to differentiate yourself and give yourself an edge. Mushroom, a little bit of a fetch quest. Red Boomerang. That's not exactly something that's useful for progressing. And
Yeah,
Hurfy,
overall.
despite having access to Death Mountain, goes to the one-off spot, picks up his bombs under the ground, and having a little trouble picking them up. We get Titan's Mitts and a sword over on Bakarbollar's side, so that is quite the progression here. 2 swords, in fact. Overjoyed, swinging a sword.
Yeah, I mean, just going in 1k from no sword to Master Sword is always really nice.
And with the Titan's Mitts and the Moon Pearl and the hook shot already up here, he's going to have a lot more options. This is going to be quite the efficient trip here. And I'm very excited to watch Hurfy pick up the blue mail. I want to see how Squirtle looks in the blue mail upgrade.
Yeah, I'm also really curious. It looks like he's going to check Spectacle Rock first. Which is something Bakarbollar did skip, so if there's something good here, that could be really good for Hurfy. There is another mail upgrade hiding up on Spectacle Rock itself, so we might be seeing both mails on both players, so we'll be able to see what the sprites look like in all different palettes.
At this point, I think Bakarbollar really doesn't want to see the lamp. That's ooh, and he uses a tempered sword as well. 3 swords at least so far here up on Death Mountain. But a
That
lamp
is an incredible amount of swords for one location.
Lamp would start to point towards Aghanim. Nobody wants to take that play to waste all that time just to get a little bit of pathing out there. There's not really any items involved, but if that's the only route to the Dark World, then they're going to have to take it.
Well, they do have the Titan's Mitts, so they have...
Right. Of course.
They do have pretty good Dark World access already. The only part of the Dark World they can't access, actually, is the bit that has the Palace of Darkness in it.
Flippers or hammer would get them across there.
Mm-hmm. It is possible for a seed, though it's really unlikely that that you might still need to do Aghanim at this point just to get the hammer there. But I'm of course hoping that that isn't the case here, because
hammer does not show up very often in Pyramid Fairy, so I think we're pretty safe from an Aghanim play.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the 4th sword. All 4 swords hanging out on Death Mountain. And we get the silvers with them.
Wow, you just get all the offense here.
We are locked and loaded, ready for Ganon.
So yeah, this seed is primarily going to come down to making the right plays, not to execution at this point.
Now I'll get a quick... Go ahead.
Yeah, if I saw that right, it was a pendant on Skullwoods and Palace of Darkness, and the remaining 5-6 crystal on Swamp Palace.
And with that extra pendant on Pod, that's really making me nervous as far as bow. If the bow isn't required to get into Ganon's tower, both of these players could spend quite a bit of time hunting it. Although the way this is going, he's just going to pick it up right now and really shut me up here. But...
It would go really well with the silver arrows if they found the bow here too. Just one more chest to go, and nope. And the bow is still out there, and it does definitely have the potential to be a cruel item in this particular seed, because, well, as you mentioned, it isn't explicitly required to get into Ganon's tower at this point. You will, of course, need it to get through Ganon's tower in the end, but that means it can be hiding pretty much anywhere.
So with lots of options as far as where to go right now, Bakarbollar is going to head to Kakariko, go into the Village of Outcasts. This is really the only Dark World access portal that he has available to him without the hammer. Can beat Skull Woods, which is a pendant, but it does have 2 items. Most players do dive Skull Woods early. It usually has something good in it. We'll see if that pays off today.
Mm-hmm. And it'll be interesting to see if he finds the items early, if he's going to opt to kill Modular just in case it is a pedestal seed, or if he'll just be like, nah, I'll just gamble on it not being a pedestal seed. And I could see doing either, especially in the case of Modular. It's really attractive to just leave it off until later, because you can usually route in clearing Skullwoods into immediately pulling a pedestal if it turns out to be required.
Yeah, with that half magic, with the butter sword, and the fire rod, of course, it's really appealing. It's going to be a pretty simple, straightforward fight, not quite the most challenging fight you'll have in the randomizer. Bakarbollar are going to attempt a bomb jump here. A little bit of trouble getting it lined up as Hurfy starts his descent into Hookshot Cave, finishing off his Death Mountain. And we get the other cane, the Cane of Burna.
Yep, it's not a bad find. It's yet another safety item.
And a full heart container. That takes care of all of the items in Skull Woods.
It'll be interesting to see whether he decides to push on through the dungeon now, or if he'll just go head south of the Village of Outcasts.
Going right south, getting out of here, get all the value we can. Pedal to Seed is not very likely in any circumstance, so definitely understandable. Oh man, Squirrel's face on the map looks absolutely adorable. Who did the squirrel sprite? Shoutouts to whoever did that.
Yeah, it is incredibly good.
Just 50 rupees on Bumper Cave, so won't be returning to that. Doesn't have a lot to do to the east of there. There's a couple more item locations, but without boots and without mirror, not any way to access those. So we'll just head right into Village of Outcasts as Hurfy's going to start in the Sanctuary and make his way over, presumably, to the Dark World as well.
It's definitely looking that way, and I don't think there's anything else left for him to do here. Remembering in time that he has the flute to make the trip a little bit shorter.
So our runner's both pretty even here through 26 minutes. They're going to have to do something to separate themselves, make a little bit of a bigger gamble than what we've seen so far.
And with the area they are in right now, one thing that could be making a difference is just diving into Thieves Town even without the hammer in hand, just counting on the fact that you either don't need that chest or you'll get the hammer right in Thieves Town and can just get the big chest anyway.
And with a recent version of the randomizer, now with there being a chance that the small key itself could be in that big chest, it really even increases the odds that you will not need the hammer at all to full clear Thieves Town. So Hurfy skipping out on Skull Woods. Both of our runners picking up the lamp at the chest game. So no darkroom navigation will be showcased here today.
Yeah, that's nice for them. It's also nice for us because it's always more interesting to actually be able to see what's going on as opposed to just having to blindly fiddle around like the runners are doing.
While the lamp is not strictly required to beat the game, it is something that the logic does require, so there's never any forced darkroom navigation, although many of our players are certainly proficient in it. It gives them the edge in being able to go through these seeds with one fewer item.
And there is actually something really satisfying about doing some of those dark rooms without any issue, without any particular issue.
Now, randomizers is all about efficiency, and if you can be just a little bit more efficient, even we saw with Hurfy earlier, going through Eastern Palace and going and getting that one extra item, even though it turned out to be the compass, it was really something where now he doesn't have to go back another time. Like, he's got the lamp now, he could go back and that unlocks one more item for him. And then he gets the bow and he goes back and gets one more item. You really want to do as much as you can in one trip, and darkroom navigation really helps with that.
Yeah, exactly. Makes it significantly less likely that you have to double dip dungeons, especially because since it makes the lamp a lot less consequential than it normally is. So far we haven't found too much of interest here in Thieves Town. We do already have the small key, and I'm not certain if we've already found the compass too. That's actually looking relatively likely that there might be something hiding in that big chest. And that's not something the runners want to see.
Neither are runners taking the gamble that the first 4 chests are the only thing worth gambling. Sometimes you'll see runners, they'll only pick up those initial first 4 chests and then peace out and go do something else without that hammer to finish it off. But this is a crystal. This will be our first crystal. And we already got a paying off for Bakarbollar. That's the flippers. So that's going to unlock a little bit more. It'll certainly make accessing the Hobo and Lake Hylia Island item a little bit faster for him. And I might encourage Hurfy to head on over to Zora at some point in the near future. That could be the difference. It's an item I don't expect. It's an item location I don't expect Bakarbollar to head back to in the near future. He's probably just gonna, like you said, ignore it for the rest of the game and really hope that he doesn't have to go back for it.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, at least I see him going back for that is combining it with Catfish or something similar. Of course, that wouldn't be possible if the Zora item was the mirror, but let's just not even contemplate that option.
Both of our runners are going to be heading into this blind fight to pick up their first crystal. Now, with that butter sword, it's always welcome for the offense, but blind does not care about the power level of your sword. It's going to be 3 hits per phase either way for a total of 9 hits. One of the easier fights in the game if you can stick to the script. Blind is pretty predictable. There's not any RNG. Everything's based off of Link's movements. And Bakarbollar shows us how it's done. Picks up the book. And I believe there's still 1 item left hanging out in Thieves Town, but I don't expect either of these runners to come back for it until they absolutely are starting to run out of locations. So,
yeah.
The book and the flippers, that is going to open up quite a bit for us.
Yep, it opens up. Will open up Desert Palace, definitely. Actually, that's the only thing. For now, the book only actually opens up Desert Palace because we don't have any means of reaching either of the tablets, interestingly enough.
Those flippers do get us partial access to Ice Palace, but with fake flippers being one of the easier glitches to perform, with Ice Palace being one of the longer dungeons, I don't expect either of the runners to take that option. Hurfy,
yeah, especially without the hammer.
Yeah, not being able to clear it is a big deterrent. And Hurfy, blind gets away a little bit, doesn't quite stick to the script, but still manages to pull that crystal out.
Yep, it's very, very smoothly done.
Still no hammer, so this trip down to the southern part of the Dark World is something that they have to do all the way from the northwest. So likely going to see a clear out of at least Hype Cave here. Bakarbollar picking up 10 arrows from Stumpy as Hurfy heads over to get his dig game prize.
And the game itself was just 20 rupees, so it's nothing particularly worth going for, but there's no way to know it, and it's a really quick thing to do, and it was actually a really quick thing to do this time around. There weren't too many digs required. Let's see what the Hype Cave holds.
And Hurfy's actually going to head back here. He's going to go pick up the frog, I believe, and return that. You don't need the mirror to return the breadsmith. You can just save and quit to the light world, and then he's back into the smith, and you can turn him in that way. So we're going to take the frog on a little bit of a tour. Meanwhile, in Hype Cave, not so much.
We did find our first bottle of the seed there, so that's actually going to be double convenient for Hurfy in a little bit, because when he returns to Smith, he can also immediately check the sick kit along the way.
And with these flippers now, Bakarbollar are going to be able to go the long way around over to the Palace of Darkness area. He does have the bottle. Was there anything in that bottle, did you see?
I believe it was a blue bottle, so filled with blue goo, so he could do the recently discovered glitch to skip the bow, well, skip the bow lock in the right side of Panels of Darkness if he chooses to.
Absolutely astounding to me that there are still glitches being found from this game. This game was released in, when, 1991? So it was written in the 80s, and there's still glitches found today.
Yeah, it's incredible. It does help. The randomizer has helped with that, I think, because it's brought to light a lot of situations that wouldn't normally occur. Like, for example, you wouldn't normally even experiment with ways of skipping the bow lock in Panels of Darkness, because in the vanilla game there's no real way of getting here without the bow. Well, without doing some very major glitches in any case, and if you're doing that, then you're not too worried about it in the first place.
So after Hype Cave, Hurfy's going to take that dwarf back home. I'm going to stop by the sick kid first, see what he's got today. And nothing good. But this is efficient. It is nice and efficient to be able to come by here, return the dwarf, as well as pick up that item. So this is the first real major divergence in routing. We'll see if Hurfy sticks with it and gets the purple chest or not. There's not a lot else over here he can do at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And just a piece of heart.
Palace of Darkness actually does seem to be providing for people with or without a bow today. All the keys do seem to be stacking up already.
Hurfy, meanwhile, going to head to the mire area. It's pretty valuable to know early what that mire requirement is. We've already seen Ether is required for Turtle Rock, so we'll see what we got for mire entrance. And it looks like also Ether.
Yeah, that definitely looked like Ether to me too. I was wondering if it might have been Quake, considering we already found that, but that definitely didn't look like Quake to me.
And 300 rupees in the mire shed along with a single arrow. That's going to put Hurfy over the amount for Zora. So we might see him head there pretty soon. It's a pretty quick check, especially when you flute to 8.
Yeah, definitely makes sense to me for him to do so right now. I haven't seen anything of any particular interest in Panels of Darkness yet, it looks like.
With no mirror, Palace of Darkness is a little bit more tricky to route. You're going to have to take a death warp in order to get back to the beginning really easily. There's a couple of other minor things you can do, such as doing the bomb jump to go through the maze backwards. And with the lamp, going through the maze backwards is not too bad.
No, definitely. The bomb jump itself is really the most difficult part of it, but a lot of runners have, due to the Key Sanity tournament that happened recently, had a really good reason to practice that bomb jump a lot, so a lot of more people are familiar with it now than they used to be. So we don't actually even have to worry about it, just because we just found a key and the big key, and that means that all keys -1 are accounted for, but the only other thing we need small key for is Almasaur, and we'll just pick that up along the way. Because that small key must be in the bow lock side at this point.
So Hurfy definitely going to go up, check Hobo, probably combo with the Zora area as well while he's here. And Bakarbollar are going to have to get back to the beginning of Pod or save and quit. We get a Bombos here, and he's just piecing out. So he's electing not to do that bottle glitch, dislodging the camera in order to get those 2 extra chests in Pod. There might have been nothing in them. I wasn't paying nearly enough attention as far as what was over there. Like you said, there is definitely a key on that right side. So there could also be necessarily a compass or map on that right side as well.
Yeah, I don't remember if he picked up a compass or map in the process there, so that remains to be seen.
Going backwards through the mountain now, pick up the old man. Always nice to have that spawn point. A little bit faster to get out of the cave and flute away to your next destination. Hurfy's going to go pick up his Quake here in the waterfall cave.
Yeah, by this point we know that Quake isn't really required, but it's going to be a nice find for him regardless. Oh wait, Hurfy himself also knows that Quake isn't going to be required for anything, I believe, because he's the one runner here who has actually checked both down locations at this point.
So we're getting a mushroom check here from Bakar as Hurfy swims up to go see the Zora King. Not a lot of obvious plays here, a lot of little one-off locations that we're going to have to check. A bee in a bottle for Bakarbollar, certainly a welcome safety. Immediately gets rid of that golden bee. No thought to using that later in the game. Not the most useful of weapons. And just 50 rupees from Zora for Hurfy.
Invest 500 and get 10% of your money back isn't too good a deal, but it's not the worst deal I've seen from Zora.
So desert seems to be the place to go. Not a lot else to get into right now.
No, definitely. It's the only dungeon that is potentially completable that's open to our runners right now, and even that isn't quite a guarantee, but it's the one most likely to be completable at this point. So the other dungeons are either not reachable right now or would require a hammer to complete.
And this first chest here is really going to tell us if we can full clear this or not. And with the map, it's not looking good.
No, that's guaranteed that there must be a key of some kind on the torch, so that is all we're seeing of Desert Palace.
Our runners do have the option of sequence breaking and going into Desert 2 in order to pick up a small key and using it on the right side, but Bakar elects not to do that break, and we'll see if Hurfy does. Hurfy's going to go at least get the information on what's on the torch. But he's also not going to do the sequence break.
Yeah, but running really low on options here. I have to say at this point that I expect the game wants them to do an early dip into Ice Palace.
It's always painful for such a long dungeon.
Yeah, it is one of the dungeons that you least want to revisit because it basically starts off with an upfront sequence that lasts a really long time before you get anywhere in the dungeon.
But without the hammer, we're really limited, or at least ether. Really limited in options here, so pretty linear seed so far. Both of our runners trying to avoid doing it, but it looks like Bakarbollar is going to go right there now. Possibly could be checking Hobo here, but it's a little bit faster from 4, so I expect he's going right in Ice Palace.
Yeah, definitely looks like it. Of course, the other option that we haven't explored yet is the Pyramid and Catfish, but those are really out of the way one-off locations, so it's really 50-50 on whether I want to go there and just count on the hammer being somewhere in one of those, or if you just go into Ice Palace and they're like, well, this is going to be a major payoff if it actually pays out, if it actually works out.
We'll see if Hurfy, after rescuing the old man, decides to check those extra one-off locations, like you said, as Bakarbollar is going to pick up his first chest in Ice Palace. And a third bottle, not quite the progression he's looking for right now. And it certainly looks like Hurfy's going to go off and do some more one-off locations.
I have a feeling he's going to be picking up the purple chest at the very least along the way. Totally makes sense if you're going to do this.
And he hasn't dipped into Skull Woods yet, so he's going to go check that out. It should be a pretty quick 2 items for him.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. And yeah, both the items were found incredibly early, and they weren't very useful items, sadly. But it's at least one weight off his mind.
Bakarbollar are going to set up the bomb jump here. This is a trick that most of our runners are really good at picking up early. It's not nearly as difficult as it looks, and it really does save a ton of time later on routing this dungeon. So if you're looking to get into rando, bomb jump, not that bad.
Yeah. In fact, rando in general is a lot about, well, maybe not a lot, but learning various bomb jumps is very handy because it just makes your routing more convenient, as was just demonstrated by Hurfy too.
So Hurfy gets his 2 items in Skull Woods. Not a lot else for him to do here. He could head east and check out Quakefish that direction now that he does have the flippers. Or he could head back south and grab that purple chest like you were saying.
Personally, I'd at this point be tempted to just make both those plays, but it looks like he'll just be heading straight east.
Bakarbollar remembering that you can't really get there from here. Gonna get stuck here, I believe. He's gonna have to save and quit. I don't think there's a way back for him without that hammer.
Yeah, I don't think this particular door to the left here ever opens, even if you kill all the enemies in the room.
It does not. So he's gonna have to save and quit. We'll see if he comes back. There are more items accessible to him at this point in Ice Palace. So a tough call. Some of these dungeons are really tricky when you can't complete them, and he's going to 4 here, so maybe, well, it looks like he's going to flute away again.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, Hurfy's mostly at the end of his long journey over to see what Quakefish has for us today.
Now, this could be something. It is actually fairly likely to be something good at this point. It's because we're running really low on possible locations, and there has to be some progression out there somewhere.
And that's Ether. So that is definitely progression. That's going to open up 2 items in Misery Mire. Can't quite get into Turtle Rock yet, even though we do have the entrance medallion. Still need the hammer in order to get in there. But Mire with 2 items and being a crystal is a welcome opening for our runners.
I do agree with Hurfy here. That's just going down and checking the pyramid real quick rather than immediately saving and quitting. Because there is still no convenient way for him to get to these parts of the Dark World otherwise. And while Mire is completable and is very attractive, I'd certainly expect that to be a play coming very shortly. You do want to get this in while you're here rather than leaving it until later and possibly biting you in the back that way.
It looks like Bakarbollar is going to take the same route here. Still has the option. Hasn't done Smith sequence yet. Both of our runners still have the purple chest to do as well, and that left side of Ice Palace. But this is definitely the play.
Just a piece of heart.
So Mire's got to have something here for us. Some kind of progression.
Yeah, that's all the depths of Ice Palace that we didn't see have the progression, but that's just I'd rather see it being Maya. That's more interesting. Be more interesting to watch that way.
So I'd say this is a pretty linear seed so far as where our runners are being sent. They're not having a lot of things open to them at once or anything as Bakarbollar picks us up. And this is why your efficiency in routing is really, really important. It shows us that, okay, so I picked up a couple extra items here because, you know, Hurfy sequence broke. Bakarbollar still hasn't checked Eastern Palace, so maybe you wanted to do that first. So these sequence breaks and the efficiency in routing is really what's going to pay off, even in these linear seeds.
Yeah, it does look like they're both heading straight to Maya with the items they have now, which makes perfect sense to me. It's the one crystal dungeon that can actually be completed at this point, so, well, why would you even go anywhere else? And I'm almost wondering now what they have a book to you to hide from us, and the progression item in here being the boots, so that we can pick up the mirror and check a bunch of other locations that way, but we'll see what happens.
They're certainly not going to lose any time by coming in here. Generally speaking, Mire is a pretty big hunt for the big key one way or another. So a go mode Mire versus a full clear Mire, not too much of a difference in general.
Well, so much for it being a big key hunt.
Well, that's just great.
It's always funny to see the big key so early in this dungeon when you're gonna have to full clear it anyway because you're pretty certain it's gonna contain something important for you.
I think that's the first instance of the stun prize that we've seen. It's just a heart, which can be useful later on for if you're low on hearts in Ganon's Tower, or might want to take out that hook shot, just stun a couple enemies. But right now, Hurfy's gonna go check out the rest of this. Lots of small keys everywhere in this dungeon. Never a concern.
Yeah, it's Misery Maya for you.
And Bakarbollar, busting out the cane, doesn't want to take any damage, has considerably fewer hearts. Well, two fewer anyway, from what Hurfy's got. But with that half magic isn't really a concern, especially with there being some very timely magic refills coming up for both of our runners.
Yeah, this dungeon has actually got really conveniently spaced out full magic containers throughout it.
And there's our hammer. Bakarbollar overjoyed to see the hammer, so that's really going to open things up for us. That's Turtle Rock access, although without an ice rod, we won't be able to beat that. It's Ice Palace being clearable now. And that's Tower of Hera being clearable now.
Yeah, let's see. Take a real quick look. We're still missing the boots, the ice rods, and the bow. We're also technically missing the mirror, but both of our runners know that the mirror is waiting for them in the library once they find the boots, so that's going to count that one.
Mirror will certainly be required in order to get even into Swamp Palace, so we definitely are looking for those boots before we head up to Ganon's Tower, so no bootless seed today.
That's also a nice thing. Since I see somebody asking, the Tower of Hera can be accessed in one of two ways, basically. You can either go up the traditional way using the mirror, or you can go up the not-so-traditional way from the right side using the hammer. In this particular case, the hammer is enough to unlock Tower of Hera through the right side of the Dead Mountain.
And Bakarbollar decided to peace out. He's not going to fight Vitreous yet. A lot of runners like to put it off until the bow, especially with those silver arrows already in his possession. It's often easier to... It becomes a trivial fight even with those silver arrows, but without a bow of any kind, it's a bit more of a challenging fight. Hurfy, meanwhile, going to head to the boss room and give Vitreous a piece of his mind.
Yeah, with the gold sword and all that, the Vitreous fight shouldn't be too difficult. It's still going to be a little bit slower, of course, than doing it with the bow, but it's not going to be that much slower.
And here Bakarbollar is showcasing that route to Tower of Hera without the mirror, as you were describing earlier. Also gives them access to Ether Tablet. Gonna head in to visit Moldorm first, though. So this is two real inefficient things that Bakarbollar has done so far, is take that early dip into Ice Palace without clearing it as much as he can. And he's going to have to make this journey all the way through Mire as well before the end of the game. Vitreous does hold a crystal, so this is an opportunity for Hurfy to pick up a little bit of time here.
That's also something you don't see too often, finding both the keys of Tower of Hera in the initial section of it, where you don't need any keys whatsoever, yeah. Usually it's a case of one key leading to the other in some way.
And Hurfy with Butter Sword and 11 hearts can have a little bit of trouble compared to having the silvers, but shouldn't be too bad of a fight here.
Yeah, the gold sword takes 3 swings or spins for each small eye, and then I believe 8 swings or spins, whatever, for the big eye itself. It's actually the same damage as regular arrows do.
And generally speaking, the swords, when you do the spin, will do 1 level higher in terms of damage, but not the gold sword. The gold sword's just going to do the same whether you spin or slash. And Hurfy with a single heart left, that's all he needs. Finishes the big eyeball, picks up the compass and the crystal.
Yeah, meanwhile, we'll see what Moldorm holds for us here.
And down goes Moldorm very quickly with that butter sword. 2 spins, 2 slashes, and we're done.
Or just 5 rupees.
It's a crystal. Can't waste time killing crystal boss. So Hurfy with the same idea as far as going up Death Mountain. I'm not sure what his routing is going to be here. He could be checking Spike Cave pretty early. Meanwhile, Bakarbollar picks up a shield upgrade off of the Ether Tablet.
It looks like he just was like, wait, I think he just realized partway through now that he doesn't have the mirror for Tower of Hera and has to take this particular route.
Death Mountain is an underrated tourist attraction. Very scenic routes. Probably just one to take in the view. The name kind of scares off all the tourists.
Yeah, and the cabbages. Nobody likes those cabbages.
So usually Spike Cave is the last point that anybody checks on Death Mountain. So it looks like Bakarbollar are going to decline to go see what's in Turtle Rock, poke his head in there without that ice rod. We'll see if Hurfy makes the same decision.
Yeah, at this point, I'd definitely personally be inclined to focus on things I can actually complete, guaranteed. So I imagine we'll be seeing Bakarbollar go back to Ice Palace soon.
And looks like you're right, because there's not a lot of other reasons to fly to 8 at this point in the game, so gonna finish it clearing out Ice Palace. Didn't find anything his first trip by, didn't also open everything up that he could have. Hurfy, on the other hand, probably gonna try to save this one for last. Go mode Ice Palace can be much, much faster than one where you're full clearing it, especially in Bakarbollar's case where you're full clearing, trying to clear it twice.
Definitely. It's actually worth mentioning. When Bakarbollar went in here earlier without the hammer, I actually personally am fond of skipping the bomb jump, well, the big bomb jump in that situation, because it makes the hammerless routing a lot more convenient that way. Of course, nobody wants to go in here without the hammer in the first place, but certainly routing out things like that is certainly something that can help improve your randomizer play if it's really required.
And this is practice makes perfect situation, because the more you play the randomizer, the more you start to run into these situations where, okay, well, how do I do an Ice Palace route without the hammer? Whereas if you're first starting out, that doesn't even cross your mind as an option.
Yeah, exactly.
So best thing to do is when you run into a situation like this, maybe it's a routing decision, maybe it's, you have never done a fighter sword Mothula before. Always good to take note of it and then write it down somewhere and practice that for later. It's certainly the best way that I learned. And Bakarbollar is going to skip the bomb jump this time.
Yeah, in this case he's actually in a position where I guess he's planning to full clear it anyway. He has half magic, he has the kind of burnout, he even has the bomb burst medallion, so all of those things to get him in, and he can just do it this way.
And Moldorm scores a hit, knocking Hurfy down. Gonna have to make that long walk of shame back up the stairs.
Yeah, on the positive side, once he kills Moldorm, he's definitely done with the dungeon. No need to go back into the pesky basement.
And saves himself there, so there's another instance of practice. Uses the sword. If you're holding out the sword and you're pressing the opposite direction of the edge you're against, you will be able to stay on the platform. Mm-hmm. So picks up that crystal.
And we're just getting to the meat of Ice Palace. This is definitely the segment of the dungeon that has the real item density in it. Getting some good use of the powder here.
Always want to hit those bunny beams, excuse me. Always want to hit those bunny beams before they start moving. Once they start moving, you can't make them a fairy anymore. And Hurfy, knowing he can full clear Ice Palace, is going to jump in and do the same.
And Ivan 75, the developers of the randomizer do their best to make certain that the game plays things that so that the game is always completable. If it ever happens that the game isn't completable, then that's considered a bug in the randomizer, and they definitely appreciate any reports of that, so that they can fix it for future versions. As far as I'm aware, there's no major issues like that in this current version.
The devs have done a really great job. They know this game inside and out, and have shown that time and time again. Mm-hmm. Really created quite the experience for all of us runners here.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the work they've put in to revitalize this game and just make it fun for so many different people.
So Bakarbollar picking up the cape. Unfortunately, we know that that's not going to lead anything in the form of Bumper Cave, but still a nice safety item for the end. And Ganon, although with Butter Sword and Silvers, we probably won't be seeing much safety.
Mm-hmm. It's still worth having now.
So that's going to do it for Bakarbollar in Ice Palace. He's got nothing to do but go fight Cold Stare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it shouldn't be too bad of a fight with all the equipment they have.
Half magic, fire rod, gold sword, blue mail. Sounds good.
Yeah, that's the kind of situation you always want to be fighting Cold Stare in if you can help it, to be honest.
Even a couple of potions just in case things go south.
Mm-hmm. So we'll have a nice, chill Cold Stare here.
Bakarbollar taking out Bombos for the initial shell. This will use a little bit less magic than the traditional 8 fire rod shots.
That's also
just another one of those interactions where in Randomizer that's just absolutely amazing. It's like this game was made on purpose.
I believe using the Bombos medallion there is also actually a teeny tiny little bit quicker than using the fire rods, but it's barely a difference.
So, yeah, easy fight, getting him right in the corner.
No progression at all, though, surprisingly enough. So I believe we are looking very much like we're gonna have to start dipping into Total Rock at this point.
Both of our runners fairly even though Bakarbollar is out of Ice Palace a couple minutes before Hurfy's going to get out of there. Hurfy has defeated Vitreous from Misery Mire already. And Bakarbollar decides he's going to go finish that up right now. So we'll be able to see a little bit better how close our runners are once these two fights complete.
Yeah, so far it does appear that Hurfy has a slight lead.
But only an hour and 5 minutes in, we still have a lot of time left for this fight to go either way. Lots of swings left.
Especially since we're still hunting a bunch of major items, and especially major items that have the potential to just be practically anywhere in the game.
I'm still nervous about that bow. That bow is not required to get into Ganon's Tower. It could be actually anywhere.
Yeah, that is definitely there's just a single location in the game that we know of that the bow definitely can't be. Well, one single major notable location. But the inverse could happen. It could be guaranteed that the bow isn't over in Ganon's Tower, because it's required to get the ice rod, which is the other really inconvenient thing here.
Before we start getting hyped about that one special location, I think we still got a lot of locations left to check. So
yeah, we definitely do.
We'll let chat think about that before we start hyping it up.
Yeah, and that is definitely a case of we can't start thinking about that one location once we actually find the bow. Just looking at the positions now, they're actually really close, I think.
But it is looking more and more like Turtle Rock is the play. I can't think of any locations offhand that neither of our runners have checked outside of the purple chest.
Yep,
oh, actually, we do have quite a bit more now with the hammer. We have hammer pegs. We have Bat Cave. So a couple bit more of those one-off locations, but Turtle Rock definitely the highest density of items.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what the tendencies of these two runners so far. Actually, it wouldn't surprise me to see one go for those one-off locations and the other to go straight into Turtle Rock.
Gambles are the name of the game here, and we see that cape coming into play here. Bakarbollar just going to step right into that goo and slash down these eyeballs really quickly.
That's worth noting, that the cape has some weird properties. Like, it's relatively well known at this point that the cape doesn't drain magic if you're holding a wall while you're using it, but it also drains magic slower while you're slashing your sword for whatever reason. I don't know why that is, but it makes the cape on Vitreous actually a really good weapon. Even with just regular magic and Master Sword, if you mash enough, you can just completely kill all these more eyeballs before your magic runs out.
So it looks like Bakarbollar has a slight lead, and I'm talking, 15, 20 seconds here as Hurfy gets his Ice Palace Crystal and Bakarbollar heads up to Death Mountain and flutes away from it. Looks like he's going to go check out some of those one-off item locations we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, let's see what Hurfy opts to do. He does start in Death Mountain, so if he goes... Nope, he's also pulling out the flute.
Nobody wants to go up to Turtle Rock and see what those items are. It's tough to make that long climb into Turtle Rock, get all those items, and then just get disappointed with knowing that you're going to have to come back later.
Yep, it's interesting to see, actually.
We got a comment in chat being antsy about those boots. Boots are coming. We know boots are required for this seed. So boots will be coming at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later. Bakarbollar are going to go ahead and check the Thieves Town big chest. This is certainly a gamble. It's one of the locations that will generally be put off for dead last. Nobody wants to make this journey back in here.
Yeah, it's a very unusual play. I wonder if that is because he's feeling behind because of his problem in Ice Palace, and then his decision to leave Maya early, and he's just thinking like, I have to make a big risk play now. That is my chance to catch up again.
In either of these runner situations, I would certainly feel behind. Doing Ice Palace where there were no progression items in it always feels bad, and certainly double dipping dungeons unnecessarily feels even worse. So it's tough, but you gotta realize that, you know, your opponent might not be as lucky as you. You might still be ahead, so definitely keep going. We're only 110 into this.
Yeah, we still got plenty of race left to go.
I see a couple of people in chat mentioning Skull Woods check. Skull Woods has been cleared out and only being a pendant. Neither of our runner elected to complete it. And just 10 bomb upgrade for Bakarbollar in the big chest. Gonna kill himself, probably out of joy more than frustration here. That he doesn't have to do that again, I assume. Never been great at reading people's emotions in video games.
Yeah, I imagine this is a setup to following up with picking up the blacksmiths and possibly checking hammer pegs.
And we got an ice rod. So that turtle rock play now looking a lot more appealing, being able to full clear it.
Yeah, I definitely see. Well, I imagine he'll pick up the purple chest real quick because he's right here. There's really no reason to skip this, and then saving a quitting, delivering the purple chest, and then straight up to Dead Mountain and into Turtle Rock.
So still going to leave one item up for grabs in Turtle Rock. Won't be able to use that mirror to get to Mimic Cave, not without finding those boots first. So if the purple chest ends up having boots, this is quite the play for Hurfy. But just a piece of heart, unfortunately.
Nope, but it's time for Turtle Rock, and Turtle Rock has a lot of item locations for one dungeon. Even without Mimic Cave, it still has 5 possible items in there. That's 5 chances of finding, well, the boots or the bow.
And those are our 2 remaining items at this point, with that ice rod having been found. Just the boots and the bow.
Yep, and it's making that scenario where the bow is hiding again and still more and more likely.
Just 50 rupees in the Batcave today.
Yeah, the question is really when Bakarbollar is going to make the play into the Hammerpack Cave. Who is fluting? This could be bad for him if he opts to. No, he's going back to 3, so I do think he's going for Hammerpacks next, which is good, because that means he's going to pick up the Ice Rod before heading into Turtle Rock, saving himself from the double dip.
And Hurfy getting a little dead rocked. Never a fun time. It's one of the things I like about the enemy randomizers. It takes out all of the dead rocks away from Death Mountain.
Yeah.
It makes it easier.
Well, then you get those situations where they're hiding instead in a dark room you're trying to go through, and you're wondering, why can't I go through this? I held up my sword, I hit something, sure, but I keep getting stuck here, and then there's one of those bloody things in the way.
So the turtle's head disappears into a set of stairs, and Hurfy's going to take that climb and see what we get inside. We'll see if Bakarbollar elects to go directly to Turtle Rock or, like you said, just pick up the purple chest. It's already here. It's likely already in his head that he's going to do it. It's really hard to break yourself out of something like that and change your mind mid-sequence. Of course, with, you know, already having seen Hurfy's results for the purple chest, we know it's the right play to go on, but we'll see what Bakarbollar believes.
Yeah, that would be... I'd be more surprised if he opts to skip it than if he decides to pick it up, really.
And just like you said, he's picking up that purple chest, gonna go turn it in immediately.
And just keep getting some more heals. It's a very good idea in this room, by the way. I do believe it's actually quicker to just switch to one of the invulnerability providing items and just going through the rolls that way, rather than trying to finagle your way around the hook shot or anything else.
Yeah, especially when there's a magic refill for you waiting as soon as you get out, whether or not you mirror, there's a full magic refill. So with that half magic and the invulnerability items, it makes it much more efficient. Always important to be aware of what's in your inventory, even for non-progressive items. And a little low on hearts, only 4.5 here for Hurfy in this chain chomp room. These guys can be quite dangerous.
I do believe they actually
bait him out a little bit.
He has 2 hits. He can take 2 hits from these guys right now.
He can't take any more. Unfortunately, he is down.
Yeah.
So back to the beginning for him. No fairies in a bottle to save him.
It's honestly one of the worst rooms in the game to go through without taking damage. These chain chomps are just really unpredictable. Well, they're actually relatively predictable, but at the same time they're just annoying to avoid with the layout of the room.
So not too much of a walk back for Hurfy here, as Bakarbollar struggling with the dead rocks on his own.
He ends up avoiding getting blocked there, so it's a little bit of time gain there. And Hurfy just taking it very carefully with the chain chomps now. Very good decision.
And with that powder, he'll be able to refill his health no problem later on in this dungeon. Elects to do it right now, though. Does have the bug net. Could save one for later.
Yeah, I'm not certain if his bottles are filled or not right now, though.
So this vanilla big key chest is often a chest you'll see runners skip, but that's because a lot of the time they'll already be in go mode, having all the items they need to beat the game. And it doesn't really get them anything. But here, with a couple of items still outstanding for our runners... Ooh, he's got glasses on when he's a bunny. That's adorable. Usually you see them check it, and Hurfy's gonna just not check it and prove me wrong.
That's an interesting decision to make. It's technically it's a little bit of a gamble, really. I know it definitely won't hurt his ability to clear the dungeon, that's guaranteed. But there might be something important in there.
Hopefully Bakarbollar will show us whether or not that's going to hurt or help. Well, it's certainly going to weigh in the back of his mind for the rest of this run.
Yep, definitely.
We'll see how Bakarbollar does with the chain chomp room. A little bit more health going in this time. And looks like he's going to make it through with just that one hit on him.
Yeah, it's not too bad. it's looking more and more likely that it might actually be an item in that the vanilla big key chest here in Turtle Rock.
Well, short of both of our runners skipping it, we're gonna find out pretty soon here. And getting a little low on hearts here is Bakarbollar in that room. Gonna take a blue potion just to be sure. Picks up that small key and is gonna go right for that chest.
Yep, we'll see if it matters.
Hurfy pulling out that cape for the laser bridge room. These skips can be tricky, especially when you don't have the boots.
Yep, and it was just the compass hiding in that vanilla big key chest, so it's not a big deal that if we skipped it. It's actually a little bit of a time save.
And speaking of boots, there they are.
There we go.
Hurfy running a little bit low on hearts here. Does have a blue potion. Gonna take it now. Get his magic and hearts up to full. Won't have to use the safety door here in the laser bridge room. Gonna be able to go right to Trinex.
But those boots are a big fine. That means we have everything required to get into Ganon's tower now. And so the hunt is on for the bow. Where could the bow be hiding?
So what do you think? Do you full clear Swamp Palace, hoping to get the bow, or do you go mode it and hope that the bow is in fact in Ganon's tower?
That's a really tricky question, actually.
Well, it's a question that both of these runners are going to answer pretty soon here. They're going to have to make a decision one way or another, so
it really depends.
Find out what the answer is.
It really depends on how confident you're feeling. Yeah, I have no good answer to that one. Anyway, let's see how the Trinex fights goes first, shall we?
Yeah, no, we don't need to come up with the right answer. We're not. There's no pressure for us.
That's true. It'll definitely be interesting to see what the choices are in Swamp Palace in particular.
Yeah, no, this is great. We get to judge them after the fact, after we find out what the right answer is, and then we can claim, oh no, I definitely would have done the other thing.
Nah, but I'm gonna say it right now. I think I would be skipping parts of Swamp Palace. I would be skipping the left side of it completely at this point, but I would be checking the other chests that are basically along the way for the bow.
And that's a good point. It isn't an all or nothing choice. There are, compromises. You don't have to do that left side. That does take so much longer. But you can do things like check the convenient chests on the way. So go mode for Swamp Palace. You can do a half go mode still. I expect both of our runners to do that to at least some extent. There's always that chance that that bow is sitting on the left side. And chat pointing out that the boots also do open up a couple more overworld locations, including King's Tomb and Bonk Rocks.
It's also worth mentioning that the Pyramid Fairy will also be unlocked, of course, by getting all the crystals. Or, well, in this particular case, getting the Swamp Palace crystal as well. But I doubt they'll go out of the way to get checked out anytime soon. And yeah, just to confirm what people in chat are saying, there is absolutely no way of fighting the bow requirement in Ganon's tower. At least not within the rule set of this tourney.
Yeah, there are a couple of mimics that block your path, which can only be defeated with the bow. So Bakarbollar able to avoid that ice on the ground from the ice head, despite not switching over to the fire rod quite quick enough. And
it's a little
Butter
bit
Sword
drag.
Takes out Trinex.
It does look like Hurfy is opting to quickly check Desert. That doesn't surprise me one bit, actually. This is a really quick dungeon to check, especially with boots.
And that mirror making it easy to get back from that big key chest all the way back to where you're going to fight the boss. Very appealing here. And with the full heart, I believe that's the last item in here. I believe the... No, it had the map, didn't it?
Yeah, the first chest at Bakker.
So land mode does have something.
Mm-hmm. And that something could very well be the bow, in which case we're definitely in full go mode for the seed.
A little bit overgeared compared to what the game expects you to have in the vanilla version, of course.
I mean, the heart count is about right, the rest just isn't.
So Bakarbollar not going to head quite into desert yet. Going to go for that swamp play instead, it looks like. Does have 6 items.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much of the dungeon he goes for. I'd say the safest option would be full clearing the dungeon, but it's also a very time-intensive option, and if that turns out to not pay off, it gives your opponent a huge chance to get a huge lead on you if you take that decision.
I can promise you that the winner of this tournament will not be the one taking all of the safe options, so gotta gamble at some point in order to give yourself an edge. Just 20 rubies from Landmo, so no bow yet. As Bakarbollar jumps into the water to find out what we got in Swamp. I like the play from Hurfy to clear out Desert first. Desert a little bit easier to clear out without losing too much time. If the bow is in there, then you're very confident going through Swamp. You can skip every chest without there being much for you to upgrade at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely
even the red mail we know is on Spectacle Rock.
He's also quickly going to checkerboard cave islands, which is also a decision I agree with. Like, I'm not certain if it's actually true or not, but it does feel like, for whatever reason, checkerboard cave holds progression items more than all of other caves, so probably confirmation bias speaking there. Well, I've no idea what that helped, but...
No, it wasn't the bow, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
There are statistics available for the randomizer. If you join the Discord, then you can come join us, learn how to play, learn about these statistics. You can analyze these things for yourself and see, is that checkerboard cave really a good play? I think it is.
It is.
So in that central room now in Swamp Palace, we'll see Bakarbollar what he decides to check here. The self-proclaimed gambling king. Let's see how much gambling he does. He's going to start with that south chest. Not too much of a journey there, just gonna, especially with the boots.
Yeah, this is definitely one chest I would have personally checked when I mentioned earlier that I've been skipping the left side, but I would have definitely checked this one, and then I would have gone up to the big chest and then past the big chest here.
So, looks like you're right. No left side today.
Yep. The jellyfish in the way being inconvenient for the boots there.
And it looks like Hurfy's certainly going to clear out at least some of these chests, the convenient ones anyway. We'll see if he goes to the left side. As a runner in this race, you got to be pretty confident that your opponent's probably not checking left side if they don't have the bow at this point. And if they do have the bow at this point, yeah, you're probably lost anyway.
Yep, exactly. So in that regard, it is actually an interesting meta decision of sorts to actually do clear the left side in this particular situation. Because you know most people would be inclined to skip it now. You could be making major gains by being that one guy who does actually check the left side right now.
So with skipping it and going through and getting all of the other chests, after you defeat the boss here, do you go back inside and check that left side? It'll be very out of the way later on if it does end up being something you got to check, but it can also be a huge time sink either way.
Personally, I would be inclined to say that if you do go for the boss now, you are committed to going into Ganon's Tower first before you check any extraneous locations like that. But we'll see what he decides to do.
And with, I believe it's 27 item locations in Ganon's Tower, it's really hard to pass up that opportunity. The math is very much in favor of it being in Ganon's Tower at this point. I guess it's not the full 27 that can have it, though. So 23 chests. And Hurfy gonna do that left side gamble here. Gonna check out those 2 chests. So this could be huge. This will be huge, one way or the other, whether it's here or not. Because these runners are very, very close. This is gonna be a couple of minutes for Hurfy. If it is here, he's gonna be way in the lead, and if it's not, he is gonna be pretty significantly behind.
Yep, so it'll be interesting to see which decision pays off here.
So in addition to these, you know, the Bonk Rocks and King's Tomb, we still have a couple of mirror locations, including the cave south of the Grove, the Spooky Ledge, places you can only get into with the mirror.
Yep, it's interesting to see how many of these will be checked before, well, the final commitment is made.
But statistically, we're looking at Ganon's Tower bow here.
Mm. Now, we're almost at the point where we're seeing what the left side pays off.
Still a chance. That big key doesn't mean it's not there. Could still be in the big chest. Alright, we got one more shot for Hurfy here.
And the big chest is an item, if I've been taking everything into account correctly so far.
And Bakarbollar are going to spend some time clearing out more overworld locations before heading up to Ganon's Tower. Before even heading into Desert Palace, which he knows is going to be required one way or another.
It's very interesting.
And especially after the reluctance to check the left side of Swamp. And unfortunately, just 2 pieces of heart was the result of going left side there in Swamp. But with these overworld checks, Hurfy still has a very good chance of, if he goes right to Ganon's Tower and it ends up being there.
Yep, exactly. It all depends on what he does next.
He is still a full crystal ahead. He will be a full crystal ahead. This is his last crystal. No pendants today from either of our runners, and we're not going to see any. We know it can't be on pedestal. We know it can't be deeper in Eastern or in Pod. So we're not going to see any pendants today from either of our runners.
Yeah. I do believe it's interestingly that both of our runners skipped one of the pendant dungeons entirely. I don't think Baka ever went into Eastern Palace, and Hurfy never went into Palace of Darkness.
That is certainly correct. So we see these overworld locations still being cleared out by Backer. Doesn't want to go up to Ganon's Tower. Probably hoping his opponent is in Ganon's Tower, looking for a bow that's not there.
Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying before, that occasionally doing things that are not quite statistically optimal can help you can just be the payoff. It's all about that gambling, really.
Just 3 puffs left here for Hurfy. And Bonk Rock's not paying off with just those bombs. Gets the flute out. We'll see where he's going. And Argus explodes, giving Hurfy the compass and the final crystal.
Yeah, it looks like Backer is off to Desert Palace now. Same with what he's been doing so far. I expect he'll be full clearing the dungeon like Hurfy was doing.
Both of our runners appear to be a little bit anxious that the bow is not in Ganon's tower. So we're going to do a little bit more overworld here, going right to the big bomb. This is the route you would take in NMG if you were going for the gold sword and the silver arrows, which some runners in the tournament even are choosing to follow.
That's a very understandable safety decision if you're not comfortable doing silverless Ganon in NMG.
Well, silverless Ganon will not be a requirement here today. Both of our runners do have silver and golden sword.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're actually in for a very easy, relatively speaking, Ganon fight today.
Not quite able to dash with the bomb. That's the same way you drop it. So Hurfy taking advantage of the hook shot speed in order to get this bomb to where it's going faster.
Mm-hmm.
Goes inside. Going to be a little disappointed with what's inside, but
yeah, it's still handy to get it out of the way. That hook shot speed glitch with the bomb is actually relatively simple to execute and does speed up moving with it a little bit. It also works with the purple chest. It's just a case of dashing right after you hookshot something. And the hookshot has to actually move you. Let's not forget that part.
And you saw a little bit of hesitation there from Hurfy to save and quit after the Pyramid Fairy. He had the option of just run over to Palace of Darkness, which he hasn't touched, like you had said, but elected just to check these overworld locations. So both of our runners frantically trying to clear out the overworld.
Yeah, both of them are desperately hoping that, well, the other one is actually going straight to GT and that the bow isn't in there.
So at this point, what have we missed? It's just these graveyard ledge right here. Unless I'm forgetting something else, I believe we've 100%ed it between the two runners at this point.
Yeah, I do want to say that you are completely correct on that one. Like, the only other unknown locations are, well, Ganon's Tower or Marked by the Bow anyway, so it's definitely not places the bow can be. And of course Mimic Cave. I don't think anybody wants to be Mimic Cave.
No, nobody wants to be Mimic Cave.
So I think Bakarbollar is actually going to be our first runner heading up to Ganon's Tower, looking at the direction he's going. Well, unless he is going for that Mimic Cave play, you never know. But
now that would be a gamble. That'd be a gamble and a half right there.
Yeah. He did check that Big Town Thieves, the Thieves Town Big Chest, earlier, so you never know, maybe he's fond of that kind of thing.
Man. Oh, I'm hoping it's there now. I'm hoping it's there and hoping it goes. So Hurfy with the much earlier 7 crystal collection here. Not going to be the first one into Ganon's Tower, however. I'm going to be going for all those overworld items. Going to come back here for Bombo's tablet. Didn't do it immediately after Swamp. I don't believe he's checked Agina as well, so this is kind of a nice little check if you're going to do 2 items here.
Yeah, of course his only reward for Agina's Cave is going to be 300 rupees, which he doesn't really need anymore at this point.
A little late in the game for those monies to count. And with Bakarbollar heading into Ganon's Tower, I guess we start taking guesses? Do we do guesses here?
No, we can start taking guesses.
So 1 through 22, where do you think the big key is going to be in Ganon's Tower? And we see the guesses rolling in. And you can see the rules there in the chat. If you are a sub or if you have cheered 250 bits or more, you can participate and potentially get on our leaderboard here. And Bakarbollar's going to start with the right side. And it's 1. Who guessed 1? Because it's 1. Now, unfortunately, he's got no small keys, so he can't even go up to the top quite yet. And without the bow, that 1 is not really going to be the time save it normally is.
Yeah, it's interesting and kind of funny that it's 1 now. It's basically the same thing as that Misery Maya earlier, where they immediately found the big key when there was no chance of them immediately being able to just go to the boss. It's just the same thing here. Just immediately find the big key. You can't even use it.
And Hurfy kind of doubling down that the bow is not in Ganon's Tower, of which it could still not be, but we do know it is not in Palace of Darkness.
Yeah, the only item we found in Palace of Darkness was the Bomber's Medallion. Just 20 rupees there.
Oh man, this is nerve-wracking. We've got. I mean, if we're talking Mimic Cave or Graveyard Ledge, this is still anybody's game. Generally speaking, once somebody is 10 chests into Ganon's Tower and the other person's still hanging around in a pendant dungeon, you can declare it over. But that is certainly not the case here.
Yeah, that bow could be hiding literally anywhere. Firstly, I'm kind of hoping, even though that would give Bakarbollar a massive advantage, that it's hiding in the Ganon's Tower big chest, just because it's funny to actually have the Ganon's Tower big chest be required for once, because that is a very rare situation. But we'll see where it hides.
And we'll see if the Ganon's Tower big chest is even something that Bakarbollar remembers to check. It's not something, like you said, that's really ever required.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not in the rando room. But the 4th bottle, especially containing a fairy, is never an unwelcome safety. And both of these runners got to be getting a little bit nervous now on the edge of their seats. Where is that bow? Did my opponent find it?
Yeah, that is definitely what you have to wonder right now.
Glancing back and forth at the speed racing TV site saying, where is it? And he's actually going to route in the big chest here, just 10 bombs, unfortunately.
That's good of him to remember, though, and it's very smart of him to actually check it at that point rather than going down to Ice Armors first, because, well, nobody likes fighting Armors without the bow. And there's just one more chance here for him to be able to do that. Nah, nope.
Nothing from Bob's chest. This is ridiculous. So not too many more places. We got 3 chests behind Ice Armos. We got 4 chests on the right side, plus the tile room chests. So running out of options here. And Ice Armos, not really something that's easily done with a sword. Butter sword, I think it helps.
Yeah,
but it's not a short fight either way.
I don't remember exactly how many sword hits it takes, but it's more than it takes regular arrows for this fight, so it's inconvenient.
And you can see Bakarbollar getting the double hit there. Ooh, and he does. He manages to get the last 2 at once. That's excellent, because once you defeat the second to last one, the last one will full heal for the red one, but there's still no bow. We're down to 5 chests on the right side of Ganon's Tower.
Including
Hurfy.
The most infamous room in the game.
And Hurfy leaving Piles of Darkness dejected, still not sure where that bow is.
Interesting thing is that Hurfy could still be at a massive advantage right now if he just happens to find the bow here on... I imagine he's checking Graveyard Ledge now, actually.
Graveyard Ledge, the only, I believe, overworld location besides Mimic Cave that was not checked by Bakarbollar before entering Ganon's Tower. So he's going to check out Thieves Town big chest first.
It's unfortunate because that was just a bomb capacity upgrade, if I remember right.
This is absolutely brutal.
Hmm.
What a way to start the first round here in the spring tournament. This is the match I wanted to commentate. This is great.
Yeah, he definitely lucked out.
Still no bow? Are you kidding me? Still no bow. We got one chest left in Ganon's Tower where it could be. This is insane.
Just a tile room left to go.
So odds are right now that it is not in Ganon's Tower. Odds are it's in one of the two chests that we have not seen from either of our runners.
Up in those two chests are both locked by the mirror. It's the Graveyard Ledge and Mimic Cave. Of those two, Mimic Cave would be particularly mean of the seed, I gotta say, considering the boots locked the mirror and the boots were on the laser bridge. But we'll see. There's one final chance here in the tout room for the bear.
This is an unreasonable seed. This is unreasonable.
Yeah. This is definitely one of those seeds where if it was featured in a big race, nobody would be getting a good time on it.
And it's in the tile room. We have the bow. Bakarbollar slashing his sword for joy. Finally in go mode. Number 22 now has a significant lead over Hurfy. Hurfy's going to go check that back of the graveyard now, it looks like. But it's going to be really difficult, barring a disaster, for Hurfy to come back at this point. That was a heck of a location for the bow to be in.
Yeah, at least all those people who guessed 22 in the big key guessing game earlier can be somewhat satisfied in that the tile room chest was still required.
And having a little bit of difficulty with these red mimics. This is what the bow is for. You can manipulate these enemies a little bit by swinging your sword, by grabbing a hold of a wall. And Hurfy's going to check back of the graveyard here. And just find a spooky piece of heart in the spooky ledge.
Yeah, just to reiterate what you were saying there, those particular enemies, the red mimics, and also those red eyeballs, are only vulnerable to the bow. Absolutely no other weapon works on them, and that is why the bow is required to complete the game.
So Bakarbollar are going to take, with just 2 hearts left, and going to use that cape to get into this safety room here, pick up 2 fairs. We'll see if the bug net comes out to get an extra one. He does already have one in a bottle, so going to decline that, just get a full heart refill, and head down into the gauntlet. Pulls out the fire rod, making use of that half magic. Knows he's got plenty of extra shots in it. And still have enough to light up the torches later.
It's a very sensible decision, especially since some of the most annoying enemies to hit here are those Stalfos, and those are some of the few enemies that don't slowly burn when you hit them with the fire rod. They just die instantly to it, so it's a pretty good weapon for them. In particular, it makes this room here easy because you can basically just immediately fire a fire rod and hit that Stalfos. Of course, it didn't quite work in this particular case, but usually it works.
Fire rod also an excellent weapon for Moldworm 2 here. 2 slashes with the butter sword or 2 shots with the fire rod will take down each of these. What are they? Worms? Landmos? Take them each out.
I'm actually not certain what the proper plural for Landmola is.
Either way, they're down now. We get the red cane for these whiz robes here. It's just execution at this point. No more looking, no more... Well, there's plenty more panicking to do. Hurfy gonna go up towards the pedestal? Not sure what he's hoping to find here. He's pretty confident that it can't be there.
Yeah, that's really unusual. We'll get a preview of what the credits will be saying at the very least. Or maybe we won't.
I unfortunately missed that.
I'm glad. I'm certain people will be happy to know that there is something on the pedestal.
And it's certainly not you have chosen the archer class. So plenty of magic for those torches and for these torches here. And looks like Hurfy's finally going to bite the bullet and at least head up to Death Mountain. We'll see if he ends up going to Turtle Rock before going into Ganon's Tower. Bakarbollar skipping those 2 chests. There is nothing in there that he could possibly want. He's got all 4 bottles. He knows where the 3 mail upgrades are. He knows where the 3 shield upgrades are.
Yeah, at best he could hope for a hard refill somehow, but with powder in hand and the next segment coming up not being particularly difficult to avoid damage on with all this equipment anyway, I doubt he'll even bother checking. There's just no equipment here that he could possibly want.
And down goes Moldorm too. Pretty quick swing and a poke. Just +5 arrow upgrade in the Moldorm 2 chest. That is a safety. If you do end up dying to Aghanim 2, if you have opened that chest, it will still be there. So you'll be able to avoid fighting Moldorm 2 again. It takes 2 seconds. It's just in case. Although with a fairy and 15 hearts, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, this is... Aghanim 2 is generally a lot easier to survive than all the stuff you have to do leading up to him.
And that looked like a quick double there in the second phase. Or
yeah,
the second
I do believe
round.
it was a double.
And another double.
That should be 4 hits in now, if everything's been going right. Yep,
And
there
that's
goes.
the end of that. Hurfy, meanwhile, is going to go ahead and check that Mimic Cave, likely thinking it's his only chance at this point. Oh, and this vanilla big key chest. It must have been weighing on the back of his mind for quite a while, having skipped it.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just the compass. I do respect his decision to just keep pushing the overworld at this point, though. Like, he hard committed to that. That was his idea. Like, I'm either gonna win or lose just by checking this rather than trying anything else. It was the wrong decision in this case, but it might have been. Things might have been going the complete other direction. He could have been the winner here just because this would have paid off with the bow. You never know.
Yeah, just that 1 or 2 extra bits of luck the other way, and this could really have gone either way. With that gold store, Bakarbollar's going to take Ganon down into phase 3 pretty quickly here. Refill his magic and his hearts, just in case. Being a Ganon with the gold sword and the silvers, you're playing with house money. You know that your opponent hasn't finished yet. So might as well take that extra second and just make sure you don't blow a close game or anything. Meanwhile, Hurfy checking the very last item location in this game. And Bakarbollar now 3 hits away of moving to 1-0 in this tournament. Sets up the double. Let's see it. He might even be able to get a triple here. No, just barely too slow.
Yeah, he should be able to get in the final hit right here. There we go.
It does indeed. So Hurfy picks up his nothing, his big pile of nothing from Mimic Cave, and Bakarbollar raising the sword, celebrating the big pig is dead. And that will do it. Let's get some GGs in chat for Bakarbollar on finishing in first place. And Hurfy taking a second here to congratulate his opponent. That's a tough way. That's a tough way to lose.
Yeah, that is a very tough way to lose. That's how it goes. Like, this is a very good summary of what a lot of Rando is actually about. Your execution is incredibly important, but just occasionally it comes down to just making the right choice here. In this particular case, the right choice was making the somewhat higher percentage play, but, well, both runners actually waited a pretty long time before committing to Ganon's Tower for the bow.
You might not always have control over the, where that last item is, especially when it can be in so many different chests. But you do have control over your execution. You do have control over the efficiency of your routing. So that's where you're going to see, these close matches won and lost. Is can you pick up that extra little bit for, not double dipping in a dungeon? Did you sequence break a little bit better than your opponent?
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, with the bow being so elusive, it's brutal.
It is very brutal. Regardless, we'll be likely seeing a full clear of Ganon's Tower by Hurfy as well, unless he makes that fateful decision, just go straight for the tower room just because, in which case this might be a really quick Ganon's Tower visit for him.
I've seen it before when runners haven't had their opponents finish, so it is not out of the question here. Gonna start with that right side. These two chests are just so quick, especially when you have the mirror and can get right back to the beginning, that these are in almost every single run. Gets that big key in the first chest and the 20 rupees. Gonna go back upstairs though, do the left side. So we get a little while before Hurfy picks up the big key here. The bow rather here.
We're just talking about the big key to the seed itself rather than the big key to this Ganon's Tower.
So, Ganon's Tower, mostly execution, 9 times out of 10. There are as few routing decisions you can make. Generally speaking, this is the most common of the routes, where a player will check the right side 2 chests first, followed by going full left side. This is a unique case where you can route in the big chest into your checks, because you're generally not looking for the bow here. You're looking for the big key.
Mm-hmm.
So this is largely an execution, not a memorization, but it's much more akin to the speed running origins of the randomizer.
Yeah. It will of course be checking a bunch of extra locations compared to the actual NMG run, but that is of course the other side effect of not knowing where the items are.
And the NMG run obviously does not check all of these chests, so you'll see runners, for example, entering that room immediately and not checking the room that Hurfy hookshotted up to with the 3 Stalfos in it. There's nothing in there. Likewise, the rando room, which we'll see coming up here when he's teleporting on the tiles, named as such, because most people didn't even know that room existed if they're coming from NMG. There's just no reason to go there. You just go straight to the big key and you move on to Aga 2. But with Randomizer, 4 chests there, that can be pretty valuable.
Yeah, the only items that are actually hiding in that room in the vanilla game was just bombs and arrows, and there's plenty of other more convenient places to get those in Ganon's Tower in the vanilla game.
And knowing where bombs and arrows are, even in the randomizer, is important. I mean, I've been stuck here with too few arrows, no silvers, and not be able to clear out Ice Armos with the bow as a result. So you want to make sure you're aware of things like which pots have which items, where can I get extra arrows right before Ice Armos. But with silvers and 44 arrows, Hurfy's not going to need any of that knowledge today.
No. It can definitely come up in a couple of dungeons where if you happen to know which pots actually contain specific items, you can save yourself a lot of trouble.
And bonking over that teleportation tile, that's one of the places where there are extra arrows. If you take that teleportation tile, there's an extra 5 arrows in a pot right next to it. Hurfy, realizing that the big chest is something he would be interested in checking, just gets his 10 bombs. Those 10 bombs, a new item in V29.
Yep, those were added, so oops.
He's going to try a bomb jump here.
Yeah.
And he gets it. All right. Bomb jump on the invisible bridge. That's not a joke.
Yeah, that's not a joke. You don't really know where you're properly placing your bomb unless you've practiced it quite a bit. The actual gap for it isn't too big, but just the invisible nature of it makes it more difficult than you think. It's a very nice recovery from accidentally picking up that pot, I gotta say.
If you leave the room and re-enter it, it will reset those pots. But
this was definitely the quicker option of the two.
Absolutely. Backup strats are very important in a tournament scenario. There's no resetting the run and going back to the beginning and trying it over from scratch. So we'll see if Hurfy can take out these last two Armos Knights at the same time so as not to reset their health. Doesn't quite manage it. I don't think I would certainly be able to handle it, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. And that Butter Sword does make quick work of that last one. Goes into the last three chests here. Gonna be a little disappointed. We'll see if he stops at the tile room before checking the rest of the right side. Has plenty of small keys at this point to ascend to Ganon's tower.
If he does decide to do the tile room first, that would save him a tiny little bit of time. Of course, in this scenario, the race is already over, but it always feels good to just make your own clear, win or lose, a little bit quicker.
And don't forget those imaginary internet points. It's important to collect those, I guess. And going right past that tile room, so we've got a little bit more time here.
That'll be interesting to see just how high the collection rate is on Hurfy's side once he's done, because he's done a near on full clear of the seat at this point. Like, I'm pretty certain the only places he hasn't checked are those locked by the bow in some fashion.
We get a 172 on Bakarbollar side, certainly much higher than you'd like to see in a tournament run, but in this case it was good enough. There were still a bunch of item locations that Bakarbollar did skip that Hurfy did not, and that was the difference today.
Doesn't it also add that for that particular clear time, that is a rather good collection, right?
Absolutely. Being able to sub to a seed where the tile room contains the bow is ludicrous. It speaks to the practice that I'm sure Bakarbollar has put into this game.
And
Hurfy just kind of hanging out here. Doesn't really seem to be interested in doing the tile room.
Yeah, I think he just realized that he probably needs to do the tile room for the bow, and he's deciding right now whether he actually wants to bother with that or not.
Well, like you were saying, with the cape not using any magic when to hold the wall, I've seen a lot of players recently just use the cape, hold onto the wall, and then just wait.
It's definitely the most simple way of doing that room. There's no trouble at all.
So we'll take this opportunity to remind everybody to follow these runners. These guys have put on a great show for us today. And finding that bow, running all over Hyrule. It was absolutely fantastically entertaining to commentate. I hope everybody had a good time watching. So give these runners a follow. I think there's a command I can type in chat to do this too. Oh, look at that.
Yep, that's very convenient, that command.
So even look at his hearts. He's got 18 hearts. Getting up that high in the heart count is not something you see very often.
Yeah, he actually stopped his timer at this point, so I imagine he might have forfeit. I'm not actually in the race room. Not certain if you are.
I was not able to figure it out. So I'm going to go ahead and judge by the high number of bonks and the stop timer that Hurfy has, in fact, forfeited this race.
Yeah, I imagine he didn't feel like doing the tile room.
And I certainly can't blame him. This is quite the mental drain. It is quite a bit of pressure. You don't realize it until you get into one of these 1v1 race scenarios where you're being broadcast in front of the internet and the community in general. And it like we were saying, it's not really like Hurfy didn't make any mistakes. He he took the gamble that it was going to be in the overworld and it was in Ganon's Tower.
Yep.
So it's a tough way to lose, but he's certainly one of the better runners here. I would not be surprised to see him in that 128 player bracket stage in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Like, with the exception of that decision being wrong, this was actually a pretty good race overall. I think both runners were actually pretty equally matched.
I don't know if we can get either of our runners in here for an interview.
I believe not to them at this point.
Well, Hurfy is heading down despite having a stop timer here. And just a question in chat about whether or not a forfeit is different from completing the race. There are no tiebreakers where you would end up needing to complete and get a different time, as all runners are on different seeds. I mean, you can't compare a seed where, Bakarbollar was barely able to sub to it versus Hurfy, who is, just over 2 after basically 100% clearing the game. And, compare that apples to apples against something like a jet seed where you're finishing in an hour and 15 minutes.
Hurfy, meanwhile, not pleased with that bow location, giving it a few bombs in.
He is in go mode now, however.
Yeah. He really needs to let that chest know what he's feeling now.
And the Wall Master. Let's the Wall Master know how he feels as well.
And we're joined by Bakarbollar.
Bakarbollar, congratulations. GG's on your run. How about that bow?
Oh, hi. Thank you. Wow, that was some location for the bow.
Now, walk us through how you were feeling as you realized that was the last item that you had to collect. Were you thinking, I'm going to do as much overworld as possible? Were you thinking like, it's definitely going to be in Ganon's Tower? Were you considering what your opponent might be doing?
I was definitely thinking about the possibility that the bow. I mean, I thought that it probably had to be in Ganon's Tower because of all the chests, and yeah, I was kind of nervous because I didn't do Eastern Palace, nor did I do, I believe, that ledge, the cemetery ledge. So I was kind of nervous, and I had a bad feeling when it was only the tile room left. So
No, I mean, I don't blame you. There's certainly going to be bad feelings all around as you're searching these last locations, and you've gone through 22 chests already in Ganon's Tower. So big props to you for being able to stick with it and get there. You had a lot of item locations checked for a randomizer seed, so definitely GG's to you.
Thanks. But how about those swords in the...
That was something else, and you get the silvers at the same time too. So no fear about low offense fights. How are you in low offense fights? We didn't get to see you showcase any of that for us today. So are you? Is that something you're confident in, or are you like especially relieved to find all 4 sword upgrades early?
I don't know. I'm fairly confident with only Master Sword, but it's so, I don't know, sometimes I just fail completely on Ganon and in general, but it's always welcome to have the best swords, and of course silver. But yeah, other than that, I'm I was a bit disappointed when I forgot, because I had this incident in Mr. Meyer.
Yeah, you headed out of there. We speculated that maybe you were thinking, you know, I'll come back when I have the bow, make the fight a little bit easier, especially when you already had silvers in your inventory, and there were no other items left in Misery Mire. Was that just a mistake, or was that a conscious routing decision?
Yes, that was definitively a mistake. I totally forgot I had the red cane and just thought, oh, okay, it's nothing here. So just have to come back later, and yeah. And then I went to... I found a hammer, that's right, the hammer was in Mire. And then because I already made the a mistake before that, when I went to Ice Palace, I totally forgot I didn't have a hammer. So those two mistakes are what kind of bugged me. And I mean, I didn't get tilted, but you know,
Well, to not get tilted after that is certainly a credit to your race attitude here, and you were able to stick with it until the end and get the win. So congratulations to you. Keep your head cool as you move down into the 1-0 bracket now. You'll certainly need that for the future rounds of this tournament. So again, GG's, and give this guy a follow, twitch.tv/Bakarbollar. It was incredibly entertaining to watch. So thank you for putting on quite a show for us tonight.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And a big thank you to commentators and of course.
Well, I mean, watch the replay before you thank us. And, you know,
okay.
One thing at a time here. So we're gonna watch Hurfy finish this off. He is just coming up to Moldorm 2 now. Gonna get his heart refill from these two anti-fairies, and then finish off Aga and Moldorm 2 and the Ganon.
Just a couple things left to go for him. I'm glad to see that, despite everything, he's still opting to finish things.
I mean, it feels like you should be rewarded after enduring this seed. Hurfy did end up checking those chests that you were worried about that you had skipped, including the left side of Swamp, including Graveyard Ledge, and even Mimic Cave he went back to check. So...
Whoa, oh, okay. Yeah, I totally forgot I gambled on not doing left side Swamp. I totally forgot that I did that. So if the bow would be there, I would, yeah.
And that's what we were saying the whole time, is that, you know, even though you were in Ganon's Tower first, it was really anybody's game until that bow was found. But you got there first, you picked the right location, and you managed to get the win here.
Well, you just gotta play those odds, you know, and maybe it gets rewarded.
So we get a couple of hits on Aga already. Looks like 4 hits already.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think
backed him into a corner. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough in that one.
It is not the nicest Aganim positionings I've seen.
Especially with those blue balls flying fast and furious.
There we go.
So on to Ganon. Hurfy, not particularly happy with Aganim 2 or this seed, taking it out personally on his corpse.
And who can blame him at this point? Being well over 2 hours in.
Yeah, Half Magic was pretty early too, now that I think about it. So really, the 4 swords on Death Mountain, and even the early mail upgrade on Death Mountain as well, was very, very nice. Neither of our runners elected to pick up red mail, of course. Both of them were aware of it on Spectacle Rock, but with everything else to see to throw at them, it was not necessary. So out of phase 1, into the corner with the cape. Gonna do some spin attacks here. Only gonna need 6 spin attacks against Ganon with the Butter Sword. go right into phase 3. Still have plenty of magic to get those torches lit. And there's our first hit in stage 3. Going to be 4 hits total here. We'll watch as Ganon warps around. Now these warps that Ganon does, along with some of the other RNG, including positioning of Aghanim, both of the fights, is something where the random number generation has actually been normalized between seeds. So these are the exact same warps as Bakarbollar ended up getting. So as not to stick one runner with 15 blue balls versus 2 blue balls, or 30 teleports versus no teleports. Hurfy with the torch glitch here, going to make this fight a little bit easier to manage, and finishes off Ganon. Puts that last silver arrow into him.
Yeah, that was a very nice Ganon finish there.
Nice and clean. I don't think he took a single hit, and still has plenty of magic, even if he had, something had gone wrong. So, little adorable Squirtle holding up the sword, entering the room, and he is done. Let's get GG's for Hurfydurfy.
Yeah, GG, Hurfy.
And we'll send him a message to see if he wants to get an interview, but a lot of credit to him for sticking it out and finishing this seed. So we'll remind you, he's going to go grab his headphones, then join us for an interview. We'll remind everyone once again, follow both of these runners. They have put on a fantastic show for us on what was nothing but a ridiculous seed. So follow these runners, twitch.tv/Hurfydurfy and twitch.tv/Bakarbollar. But bow and tile room. And we got Ganon's Tower big chest. Check. That was fantastic. So we welcome Hurfydurfy now to the chat. Hurfy, GG's.
Hey, GG.
That was a heck of a seed. Can you give us a little bit of what was going through your mind as you're checking those final overworld locations? Was there any location in particular that stuck out as like, oh, if it's here, I'm going to be good, or if it's here, I'm going to be dead?
No, not really. I was mainly confused, really, at the end there, especially. I was really hoping it's going to be at Fat Fairy. I was very confused because I was like, okay, I only need bow for go mode. If I get the bow anywhere here, I'm in go mode. And then I got the Crystalline Swamp from Argus, and then I looked at my tracker, and I'm like, wait, that's my last crystal, and I'm still looking for bow? Okay, well, I guess we're still looking for bow.
Yeah, you did have all 7 crystals first, but we're the second person to enter Ganon's Tower. So those overworld checks were quite the gamble.
Yeah, I don't know. I just figured it can't be in GT, right? And then eventually that was all that was left. And then I just, I refused to do the tile room.
I certainly don't blame you. There's not a single runner in this tournament that looks forward to waiting in that tile room. Going back and checking that the Mimic Cave was certainly showed your commitment to checking all those overworld locations. If it had been there, I think you would have won this race by 5 minutes. It was one of those things where it came down to where was that bow at the end. Now that Turtle Rock Vanilla Big Key chest, is that something you had skipped intentionally? Is that something where you knew that you weren't going to need to come back to it?
Yeah, I figured it would have a key for a key, so it would be a small key because I had the big key already, or it would be something useless. And then when I came back, I completely forgot that I didn't have the compass yet, so that's what happened there, I guess.
Well, that's certainly not what did not cause any harm. So this was a heck of a seed. I give you a lot of credit for sticking it out and checking out all those overworld locations. I'm very excited actually to see the collection rate in your credits at the end of this year. Yeah, do you have any other thoughts on the match or anything?
Well, not really. GG to my opponent, of course. He apparently had some trouble as well, who expects a bow and tile room.
Thank you, GG.
And I guess it's just... kind of feels a little bit like tradition almost now that the first seeds of my tournament matches are always super weird and confuse me extremely.
Well, I got to tell you, both of you put on a heck of a show for all of us here. I had a blast commentating along with Dude here. I hope our viewers, they seem to have a blast finding that bow, speculating where it might be, who was ahead, who was behind, which was never really clear until the bow was picked up finally. So thank you guys very much for putting on a race for us. I wish you both the best of luck in your future tournament races, and I wouldn't be surprised to see either of you in that final 128 player bracket. So thank you again.
Thank you guys for commentating, and thanks to the tracker as well, of course. And good luck in the rest of the tournament, Bakar.
Thank you. Back to you as well.
All right, so we're going to close it out here on Speed Gaming. We're going to remind you, follow these runners. They put on a fantastic show. They put on shows on their own stream, so give them a follow, twitch.tv/Hurfydurfy and twitch.tv/Bakarbollar. Both of them fantastic sports about this, and very, very proficient runners. Make sure to follow Speed Gaming family of channels for all of your tournament needs. So that's Speed Gaming, this channel, as well as Speed Gaming 2 through 6. We also have tournament action going on Link to the Past Randomizer channels. That's ALTTP Randomizer. That's 1 through 4, I believe. And shout outs to our my fellow commentator, Dude. Give him a follow, and our tracker, Kippy00, and our restreamer, Feasel.
And of course, also thank you to Walking Eye for doing the commentary with me here. It's been great fun, I've got to say.
I had an absolute blast. So stay tuned. I'm sure we have more tournament action coming up for you, and keep on randomizing, everyone.
We've got one more very important thing that needs to be shown on stream before we cut this off entirely.
Oh, you're right.
We want to see the collection rates.
Absolutely.
So pretty certain everybody wants to see it out.
Now I feel like a fool. I've already, done my closing thing. I can't do it again.
Well, let's fill in some time with something else.
I could speed this up if you guys want me to.
Nah, just keep it going at the current rate, that's fine. Gives me a chance to just summarize what else is going on Speed Gaming right now. We've of course got more A Link to the Past Randomizer going on all evening, so if you like A Link to the Past Randomizer, you're spoiled for choice. We very recently, about half an hour ago, had an Orient Blind Forest race start over on Speed Gaming 2. On Speed Gaming 3, we'll shortly be having A Link to the Past No Magic starting, in case you want Links to the Past, but in a slightly different, less randomized flavor. And we'll also shortly, at the top of the hour, have Dark Souls starting on Speed Gaming 5. So if you like Dark Souls, that'll be something to watch.
Yeah, those Dark Souls all bosses runs are quite something to watch if you've never seen them before. So definitely give that a shot. Races of all kinds for like this are incredibly entertaining.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, just to echo Hurfy in chat, the sword situation in this seat was something else, just going from no sword to all the swords in the span of a few minutes. Not something you see all that often anymore. It's very reminiscent of the tournament last year, in fact, where we could just find the gold sword outright immediately.
Man, look at that. Just terrible.
Well, we're not quite seeing it yet on our hands, but don't spoil things for us. I want to see it just slowly on the screen.
Instead, I'm going to complain that, of course, I had to go through everything in GT and forfeit my race before finding out that the bow was in tile room. But the big key had to be in chest number 1, because that's just how it works.
Twisting the knife right there.
There you go, folks. The final correction rate for Hurfydurfy is 184 out of 216. And with that, I think we can call this race done. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed watching this and listening to us, of course.
Have a good night.